What in the world is going on out there? That's right, your boy is back. Took a couple of days off to go down to homecoming down. Shout out to Norfolk, the Norfolk State University. And, we lost to South Carolina State, I think 51-20. But hey, look, Michael Vick is going to get those guys on point. I'm telling you, he will. It just won't happen this year. Hopefully, because you know they fire people quick. Hopefully it will happen next year. But shout out to all of the Spartans and everyone that down at homecoming for this year. It was a great success outside of the football game. NBA, do we have a problem? There was what's his name? Tom Donahue. You can research it. He was the first referee who was found to be doing illegal things as far as gambling is concerned with basketball, whether making bad calls, no calls, whatever. So he was found guilty of that. But also last week, Scary Terry, as they used to call him when he was balling with Boston in his prime, Terry Rozier, was also arrested for actually, which is, oh my God, it's horrible, pulling himself out of a game. So that, and if you've ever bet the over-under, so like say for instance, if he was playing and the over-under said that he was going to get 16 points, okay? And he tells the people, look, make sure you go under, because what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make sure I pull myself out of the game so that way there's no possible way I can go over. So I'm going to pull myself out of the game with a fake injury, which I felt to be one of the more egregious acts out of all of the people. Another guy, Damon Jones, what he did was he was involved in, I think, illegal betting, and he also, when he got information about different guys playing, like LeBron, I knew they were going to find some way to tie his name into stuff, although he's not guilty, but that he was getting information about when LeBron was going to play. So when they make these betting lines, when they're up in the air, they may not know if LeBron is going to play. But he knew for sure that LeBron was going to play from the information that he was getting, or other players. So what he did was he would tell people to take the bet based off of LeBron not playing, when most of the betting public did not know whether he would play or not. And lastly, and to me, one of the more shocking ones is Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups, to be honest with you, unbelievably tough player. Just one of those guys you see, you think of, and I still think for the most part he's probably like this, but like one of those kind of guys you'd be like, you know what? I wouldn't mind him marrying my sister, or, if he were young enough at the time, my daughter or something like that. If she was of marrying age, because he seemed like one of those kind of guys that was just a solid, decent human being. He wasn't with all of the, extra stuff. He wasn't all tatted up, even though I'm not saying tats are bad, but he just gave you this image of being just a good, decent, clean-cut man. So what Chauncey was, because I'm saying was, because this is probably what's going to happen. He's probably going to get fired from the Portland Trail Blazers as their head coach. But what he is an all-time basketball player. He's in the Hall of Fame, was just inducted earlier this year. He is a champion, 2004 champion with the Detroit Pistons, that played on that team that beat Shaq and Kobe, and the team was loaded. And it was I think I actually bet on that series. So he's one of those kind of guys. Upstanding guy, never hear anything about him. So even when I heard this last week, I was kind of like in shock. I was like, wait a minute. Are y'all sure y'all got Chauncey Billups? You sure it's not somebody else? So what Chauncey was alleged to have done was setting up, working allegedly with the mafia to set up these games. So where, like high stakes poker games and just different stuff like that. But the problem is that they also had cameras. They had kind of like X-ray X-ray tables, X-ray glasses where the cards were marked. So if it was like an 8 of spades or ace or whatever, it was like in big numbers, but you can only see through these glasses. It was like crazy looking, some of the things that I've seen on YouTube and Instagram, some of the cheating tactics that they've gone to. And what's horrible about that is, forget the kind of money that they've made playing in the NBA or any of that stuff. It's about the fact that they chose to cheat people. And now I'm talking mostly about the Chauncey Billups deal. This is that we already know illegal gambling houses or gambling houses outside of a casino are illegal. And we know that because you don't have a gaming license at the crib. And also, too, the government is not getting their cut out of it. So it's illegal. But here's the deal. On top of it being illegal, you cheat people out of their money. So essentially, you're stealing. Because if you have the upper hand on these people, you are stealing. Now, we want to have people be presumed innocent until proven guilty. But the thing is that if this is the case, because we always try to talk about integrity around here, what does that say to the character of people when they choose to say, hey, look, we're already doing something illegal, but we're so greedy for money, we're going to stack the chips, no pun intended, against these guys and make it even worse for them. So yeah, we'll let them win a couple, get kind of like the real casino. Yeah, we'll let them win a couple, but then we're going to make sure that they lose most of their money. And from what reports are, even professional players, poker players, card players, were going there and saying, hey, listen, there's something wrong here, because they don't even lose at that type of a clip. They don't even lose that much. So that they knew that the games were being rigged. Now, somebody might say, and if you get a chance, check out Michael Francese's Former Mobsters podcast. I actually watched it. It's called Michael Francese, something like that. But he talks about it and he was saying how a lot of times the way these guys get in bed with the mob is because maybe they owe a debt, they owe a favor, whatever it is, money, whatever it is. So they try to do a little something here and there to try to appease these mafia guys. Now, for most of us, we would think, and I grew up here in Philadelphia, which is a hugely Italian mafia run allegedly at the time city, and like New York. And so you would think, like, I had no idea, that they were still as out there as they are. Now, of course, they don't get the headlines and all that other kind of stuff like back in the day, but they are still out here doing this kind of stuff, obviously, because they also indicted, I think, over 15 or 20 mobsters. The correlation to us, because we all fall in these situations. We work regular jobs, most of us, even for those of us who have career-oriented jobs, nurses, lawyers, doctors, engineers, teachers, educators. It's something about the lure of wanting to make extra money. It's something about just making sure you got a little extra to make sure that you feel comfortable. To supplement what you already have. In their cases, it would probably be millions. In our cases, it'd probably be hundreds or thousands. And I get it, especially at the lower level of us who make $100,000 or less, or even people who make $200,000 or less. Because we all need money to live, right? But it has to, as I say, get to a point, and we're going to talk about this more during the week, where an old fool cannot revert back to being a young fool. Because see, when you're a young fool, you have time enough to make amends. You got time to try to rebuild and try to redo things. But when you're an old fool, there's certain things you just don't want to do anymore. I'll give you, for instance, slept in a nice, comfortable hotel bed this weekend. But you know what? Still, just because it kind of wasn't my bed. You know what I mean? Still couldn't just go downstairs and get a cold water or anything like that. So let's look at that from a jail perspective. There's a lot of brothers and sisters that are locked up that they can't just do anything, and they're in a really, really small cell. And as an older fool, You don't want to be waking up and doing all that. You can't control the heat. You can't control the air. Your bones are cracking. You get out the bed. And then y'all ever get out the bed and be like, "Ooh," or you be like, "Oh," or something like that. You know, it's funny, like stuff just be happening. You know, you step down, you know what I mean? One time what happened, I slept with my foot, you know how you sleep, and one of your legs kind of dangles off the bed. And I must have slept like that for hours. Because when I went to go stand up, I felt like I ain't had no foot. I felt like, you know what I mean? I had to wait. I had to kind of like jump start my foot. I had to wait until all of the circulation and everything went there just because I slept with my leg hanging off of the bed. A difference from when you're 51 as opposed to when you were 41 or 31 or whatever. It's because when you're a younger fool, you're able to get out of your foolishness. But once you become an older fool, you're just a fool. Now, do we all make mistakes? Of course we do. Do we all look for little things to help us get by? And, you know, like I talked about the SNAP benefits last week and how sometimes people may say, "Hey, look, you know what? Come on to the store with me. You need a few extra things? I got you." Because we all understand that we all need to eat. But we don't all need to cheat. There's only but so much circumventing the system that one person can do. And in these guys' cases, you guys have made it in life. I can't sit here and tell you that they didn't make a mistake or they couldn't make a mistake, but you guys have made it in life. Think about it like this. If the average person in 20 years of working, you know how much salary they would bring home in 20 years of working? $800,000 if you base it off of what people average nationally in this country. $40,000 a year times 20 years would be $800,000. Let's push it up a little more. Let's just say you're one of those people that you made $60,000 a year for the last 20 years. That's $1.2 million. It took you 20 years to make $1.2 million. At $60,000 a year. And you guys have made millions in a year. And I know, oh man, well, you know, they only make $5 million, so that's really only like $2.5 million after taxes. Great. Great. Because what does that say about the integrity of people? And of course, I'm sitting here and it got to be the players, it got to be the brothers, right? But we still going to stand with them. But the thing I'm saying is that why in the world does it have to come down to stuff like this? I think Chauncey Billups is getting paid $4.7 million a year to be the coach in Portland. I'm not sure on Terry Rozier in Miami, but I mean, it may. Well, let's look it up. Let's see. Because I don't like to give misinformation. Let's see what Terry Rozier is making this year. Terry Rozier, because a lot of these guys make over $20 million a year. Terry Rozier this year is going to make $24.92 million. Hold on, here we go. Just in case you don't see it. $24.92 million. And this is what we doing? That's what we doing? I used to always think that the only fixed sport was wrestling. And I get it. In the NBA, you got 450 guys. About 300 of them play a night out of the 450. And you would hope that these things are few and far between. Because we know how life is. There's always going to be slippage. You know, there's always going to be somebody trying to gain some type of advantage. But the thing is that how rich do you got to be, or how well off do you got to be before you don't want to cheat? But hey, what do I know? You know, maybe it's not true. Maybe it's not as deep as what we did, but we'll sit around and find out. But NBA, NFL, everybody else, we got to get it right. And Chauncey, a little disappointed in you, good brother. But what I do feel good about is making sure that I continue to, and that you continue to, live life. Don't let life live you.